Have you ever wondered why you start something with so much excitement, only to give up a few days later? Maybe it was a workout plan, a new habit, a goal you swore you would finally stick to. At first, it felt good. You were motivated. You were ready. But then, something happened. You missed one day. You got tired. Life got loud. And just like that, your commitment disappeared. You are not alone. This is the silent battle most people face. Not because they are lazy, but because they do not understand discipline. In this video, we are going to uncover the 4 levels of discipline and why most people quit at level 1. You will learn why motivation always fades, how to stay committed even when your feelings betray you, and what it takes to build a level of discipline so deep it becomes part of who you are. If you stay until the end, you will not just understand discipline, you will embody it. You will walk away with tools to overcome resistance, master your habits, and reclaim control over your life. Most people live and die in level 1. Level 1 is emotional discipline. It feels exciting. You are inspired by a video, a quote, a podcast. You feel ready to change. So you take action. You start running, meditating, studying, waking up earlier. But what you do not realize is that this level is built entirely on feelings. And feelings are fleeting. So the moment it gets hard, the moment it no longer feels good, you stop. Not because you are incapable, but because you believe discipline should feel easy when it never was supposed to. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You do not love yourself enough, or you would love your nature too, and what it demands of you." Nature does not demand comfort. It demands strength. It demands consistency. And that is where level 2 begins. At this level, discipline is no longer emotional, it is intentional. You show up even when it is hard. Even when no one sees. Even when the results are not immediate. You stop needing to feel like it. You just do it. Seneca believed that true joy comes from aligning with our values, not our desires. At level 2, you are not chasing a feeling. You are living by principle. You wake up early not because it is fun, but because you respect yourself. You train not to punish your body, but to sharpen your mind. You learn to sit with discomfort because discomfort becomes the teacher. This is where most quit again. They say, "It is too hard." But what they mean is, "I expected it to be easy." They are still in love with inspiration, not transformation. Now here is where everything shifts. Level 3 is identity. Discipline is no longer something you do, it is who you are. You are no longer trying to be consistent. You are consistent. You are not forcing yourself to write, you are a writer. You do not negotiate with yourself. You live your standard. The voices of doubt get quieter. You are no longer at war with yourself. There is peace in this place. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. But there is one more level. The rarest of them all. Level 4 is devotion. This is where discipline becomes sacred. You no longer train for goals. You train because it is your calling. You are no longer driven by results. You are driven by purpose. Your actions are not just habits. They are a form of worship. You live your values with such depth that it becomes contagious. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." At level 4, you live from that place. You do what you have to do not out of pressure, but out of love, out of truth. So why do most people quit at level 1? Because they chase motivation instead of mastery. They confuse inspiration with commitment. They want results without resistance. And the moment things get real, they run. But what if you stayed? What if you kept going not just through the high, but through the silence, the boredom, the struggle? What if you trained your mind the way a warrior sharpens his blade not for show, but for survival? Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. It is not control. It is clarity. And it is never easy. But nothing worth becoming ever is. If this message moved you, share it with someone who needs it. When you rely on feelings to drive your actions, you become a prisoner to your moods. One good day, and everything feels possible. One bad day, and the entire vision falls apart. But what if your actions were no longer tied to how you felt? What if you could move forward without needing to feel ready? That is the shift that separates the few who rise from the many who fall. Discipline is not about doing what you love, it is about doing what you said you would do, even when the love fades. This is why level 1 is so seductive. It looks like discipline. It feels like change. But it is fragile. It is built on dopamine, not direction. And when the rush ends, so does your momentum. The Stoics never trusted emotions to guide action. Emotions, they believed, are visitors, temporary, unreliable, reactive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they do not care. In the same way, do not give your emotions the power to decide your habits, they do not care about your future." Level 2 demands something different. It demands repetition, silence, boredom. And yet, within that boredom, something beautiful is born: integrity. You start to keep promises to yourself, not because someone is watching, not because you feel like it, but because you respect who you are becoming. And that quiet consistency starts to build trust. Trust in yourself. Trust that you can follow through. Trust that your actions can lead, even when your mind hesitates. It is in this space where effort meets silence that transformation begins. But it is lonely. People may not understand why you are saying no more often, why you no longer waste time, why you protect your mornings like sacred ground. They may call it obsession, but you know it is alignment. You are not chasing something outside yourself. You are finally honoring something within. Discipline at this level is not heroic. It is not flashy. It does not post quotes or count streaks. It is quiet, like a craftsman sharpening his blade every morning before the village wakes. He does not talk about the sword. He simply prepares. Because when the moment comes, he must be ready. You do not rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of training. That is what discipline is. It is your floor, not your ceiling. Seneca once warned us, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And most of that waste comes from indecision. From waiting to feel like it. From giving into every urge that pulls us off course. But discipline cuts through all of that. It is a straight line in a world full of distractions. It does not apologize. It does not waver. It simply acts. But here is the hard truth: discipline will not give you a medal. No one is coming to congratulate you for choosing what is hard over what is easy. The reward is internal. It is invisible. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows they did not quit, even when it was easier to do so, even when no one would have blamed them. And this is why level 3 changes everything. Because at this level, you are no longer proving anything to anyone, not even to yourself. You are simply living in alignment. You do not need external rewards. You do not crave validation. You are not forcing discipline, you are flowing through it. It has become your second nature. You are not tempted to skip the hard things because the hard things are part of who you are. There is an ease that comes from that. Not comfort, but clarity. You know what to do and you do it. You do not need to prepare yourself mentally every time. You do not bargain with your excuses. You do not start over every Monday. You just keep going. And in that steady rhythm, something powerful begins to grow peace. Not the kind of peace that avoids difficulty, but the kind that stands in the middle of it unshaken. If you have ever felt like giving up because it got hard, remember this hard is part of the path. Resistance is part of the process. If it was easy, it would not change you. The greatest version of yourself is hiding behind the version of you that quits too soon. Subscribe for more truths that shift your perspective. At level 3, something subtle but life-altering happens. Discipline stops being something you try to do, it becomes someone you are. You are no longer dragging yourself out of bed or pushing yourself to act. The friction is still there, but it no longer rules you. You wake up early not to impress, not to prove, but because it is simply what you do. There is a quiet dignity in that. A stillness. You have moved from effort to embodiment. You do not need to hype yourself up anymore. You do not need to read motivational quotes every morning. You no longer argue with your lesser self because your higher self has become the dominant voice. Your actions are not forced, they are fluent. And this is what separates discipline as a tool from discipline as a trait. When it is a tool, you pick it up and put it down. But when it is part of your identity, it is never out of reach. You carry it into every room, every choice, every moment. The Stoics knew this kind of internal stability. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When discipline becomes identity, obstacles no longer delay you, they develop you. You no longer resent the hard things. You see them as part of your refinement. Every missed shortcut, every sacrifice, every moment of silence builds something within you that cannot be taken away. There is a peace that comes from becoming who you say you are. Not pretending. Not aiming. But being. When your actions align with your values, you stop living in conflict. You stop carrying the weight of unpacked promises to yourself. That weight is heavy, even if it is silent. But when you do what you said you would do every day, without drama, you become light. You become clear. You stop hiding behind potential and start living with purpose. But here is what most people miss: this level does not arrive suddenly. It is earned, inch by inch, through repetition. Through showing up when no one claps. Through doing the small things with excellence when it would be easy to let them slide. You become disciplined not by doing big things once, but by doing small things right, over and over again. You become who you are by what you tolerate in yourself. And there is freedom in this. Not the kind of freedom that means doing whatever you want. The Stoics would never call that freedom. True freedom, they believed, was self minus mastery. It was being ruled by reason, not reaction. When you reach this level, you no longer need someone to check in on you. You do not need accountability partners or progress apps. Your standard lives inside you. You are accountable to your future self. And in that space, you start to notice something strange. You stop explaining yourself. You stop convincing others why you live the way you do. You are no longer interested in arguing with the undisciplined. You are no longer distracted by those who mistake structure for restriction. You understand that discipline is not a prison, it is a path. One that leads to strength, to clarity, to meaning. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Discipline, at this stage, is not just the ability to act. It is the wisdom to ignore what does not matter. You conserve energy. You eliminate distractions. You stop chasing every new idea and instead double down on your purpose. This is where most people get confused. They think discipline is rigid, that it leaves no room for life. But the truth is, when you become disciplined, you create more space, more clarity, more time, more direction. You spend less energy deciding and more energy doing. You are no longer stuck in cycles of starting and stopping. You are simply moving forward quietly, deliberately, without needing praise. And that is why this level is so rare. Because it requires ego death. It demands that you stop caring how it looks and focus entirely on how it lies inside you. You are not chasing approval. You are living truth. You are no longer chasing motivation. You are aligned with meaning. If any part of this resonates, take a moment to reflect. What would change if you stopped waiting to feel ready and started acting as the person you were meant to become? There's a level of discipline that almost no one talks about. Not because it is secret, but because it is sacred. It is called devotion. At this level, discipline is no longer about personal growth, external goals, or proving your worth. It becomes a way of honoring something greater than yourself. A cause, a mission, a truth. It is no longer about control. It is about surrender. Not to impulse, but to purpose. When you reach level 4, you are not just disciplined, you are devoted. Your actions are no longer driven by what you want, but by what is needed. There is no negotiation. No drama. Just alignment. You do not act out of pressure. You act out of principle. You do not wait for the world to approve. You already carry the approval of your own conscience. There is a sacredness in your routine. The way a monk bows before prayer. The way a soldier sharpens his blade at dawn. Each action, no matter how small, becomes a form of worship. This is the level the Stoics pointed toward without naming it directly. Marcus Aurelius woke up every morning to write to himself, not to entertain, but to remember. Remember what mattered. Remember what he owed to the world. He reminded himself again and again at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. That was not discipline for achievement. That was devotion to duty. At this level, you stop asking, what do I feel like doing today? And instead you ask, what does my purpose require of me today? You move with intention. With reverence. You understand that your time is not just yours, it is a tool for impact. So you do not waste it. You protect your energy, your focus, your habits. Not from fear of failure, but from love for your mission. And here is the paradox: the more you devote yourself to something higher, the more power you feel within. Not the kind of power that dominates, but the kind that radiates. You become grounded, steady, unshakable. You are not swayed by praise or rejection. You are not addicted to results or milestones. You know who you are. You know why you act. And that is enough. This level of discipline creates presence. A rare, magnetic presence. People can feel it when you walk into a room, not because you are loud, but because you are clear. You are not scattered. You are not chasing. You are rooted. Your daily actions are shaped by something eternal. And people sense that. They may not know how to name it, but they know it is rare. Epictetus reminded his students, do not explain your philosophy. Embody it. At level 4, you become the philosophy. Your life speaks louder than your words. You do not need to preach discipline. You are disciplined. You do not try to influence others. You simply become someone worth watching. But getting to this level is not a matter of intensity. It is a matter of consistency. You build it in the silence, in the days no one sees, in the choices that seem small but define everything. You train your spirit not through grand gestures, but through quiet repetition. You honor your path, not once in a while, but every single day. And perhaps most importantly, at this level, you forgive yourself differently. When you stumble, you do not spiral. You correct. You recalibrate. You return. Because you know your discipline is not a performance, is a promise. And promises are not broken easily. The world may not reward this kind of devotion with applause, but it will reward you with something deeper: peace, purpose, presence. And that is worth more than any praise. So ask yourself, are you acting from impulse or from mission? Are your habits rooted in desire or devotion? Transitioning from level 1 to level 2 is where most people fall. Not because they cannot make the leap, but because they never learn how. They think something is wrong with them when the motivation fades. But nothing is wrong. The drop in excitement is not failure. It is the beginning of real transformation. It is the moment you stop relying on feelings and start relying on choices. But to get there, you must confront the illusion that discipline should always feel inspiring. It will not. In fact, it often feels boring. But boredom is not the enemy. Inconsistency is. So how do you move forward when the emotional high disappears? You make a simple decision: stop asking for permission from your mood. Discipline is not about wanting to do the work, it is about doing it anyway. This shift is brutal, but it is freeing. You'll learn to act from principle, not from preference. From commitment, not from comfort. And the moment you act without needing to feel ready, you build a new kind of self-respect. One that does not depend on results. One that comes from effort itself. But effort alone is not enough. You must also design your environment for discipline. You cannot rely on willpower forever. Even the most disciplined people do not win through raw mental strength, they win through structure. Remove temptations that drag you back into level 1. Set rituals that protect your energy. Automate the basics. Prepare your tools the night before. Lay out the mat. Set the alarm. Leave no room for excuses. Your mind will resist, but your environment can carry you when your willpower fades. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid, and that includes how you look to yourself. You may feel robotic at first, lifeless, but that repetition is the beginning of mastery. What feels mechanical today will feel natural tomorrow. What feels like sacrifice now will feel like sanctuary later. But only if you stay the course. Another key to rising past level 1 is accountability, not the kind you outsource, but the kind you internalize. You must start to see yourself as someone worth following. Not someday. Not when you succeed. But now. You must look in the mirror and ask, if someone followed me around all day, would they become stronger or weaker? That reflection is where real discipline starts, not in the doing, but in the becoming. You will be tempted to quit again. The old habits will whisper. The emotions will swing. But now you know what they are. Not commands, just noise. And you no longer obey noise. You obey vision. So when the moment comes, and it will, When you do not feel like waking up or studying or training, ask yourself, what does the future version of me need from me right now? Not what feels good. Not what is easy. What is needed? And act from there. Do not wait. Do not argue. Just act. If you do this for long enough, you will wake up one day and realize something subtle, but profound discipline is no longer something you have to do. It is something you do not want to live without. You crave structure the way others crave chaos. You protect your habits the way others protect their distractions. And that is when you know you have crossed over. There is a voice in your head that sounds reasonable, gentle, even caring. It tells you to rest, to delay, to start tomorrow. It says things like, you have time, or just this once will not hurt, but that voice is not your friend. It is your comfort disguised as compassion. And if you listen long enough, it will steal every goal you ever set for yourself. The Stoics called it the whisper of desire. Modern psychology calls it the reward system. Whatever name you give it, the effect is the same. You trade what you want most for what feels good now. This is the trap of level 1. The false belief that you will feel more ready tomorrow. But you will not. You will be more tired, more distracted, more distant from the version of you that was willing to start. Every time you delay, you deepen the habit of hesitation. And hesitation, once practiced long enough, becomes identity. It is not that you cannot follow through. It is that you have rehearsed quitting until it feels natural. So how do you escape this loop? The answer is not more information. It is interruption. You must interrupt the default pattern. Do something different. Even something small. Stand up. Move. Breathe deeply. Say the truth out loud. This is the moment I usually quit. That sentence alone can break the spell. Because once you see the pattern, you can change it. But not before. Seneca once wrote, while we wait for life, life passes. In other words, do not wait for a better mood to do what your character requires. Your future self is not built in great leaps. It is built in small refusals. Refusing to quit. Refusing to postpone. Refusing to betray your own standard. And that is the secret behind all high-minded level discipline. It is not about being stronger than others. It is about being stronger than your excuses. That moment you decide to do the thing, despite how you feel, is not just a win, it is a rewire. Your brain learns that action is possible even when emotion says no. Over time, the voice of doubt gets weaker. The voice of resolve gets louder. And you begin to trust yourself again. But it is not a straight line. You will fall. You will miss a day. And when you do, the old pattern will try to return. It will say, see? You failed again. That is when you must be ruthless with compassion. Not soft. Not indulgent. Compassionate. Which means you forgive yourself, but you do not let yourself off the hook. You start again. Immediately. No stories. No shame. Just continuation. The Stoics taught us this too. Marcus wrote, do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors, unless with a view to some mutual benefit. In the same spirit, do not waste energy criticizing your past self. He got you this far. Now you carry it forward. If you want to win this inner war, stop negotiating with your feelings. Stop waiting for perfect timing. Start creating conditions that support your discipline, environment, habits, clarity of purpose. And when the moment of weakness returns, as it always does, smile. Recognize it. And respond with action. Every time you choose to act in spite of how you feel, you reclaim power. Not over the world, but over yourself. And that is where all freedom begins. Progress does not always announce itself. It does not arrive with fireworks or applause. Sometimes it comes in silence. In the days when nothing seems to change. When the scale does not move. When your journal looks the same. When your habits feel like effort without reward. That is where most people stop. Not because they are incapable, but because they mistake quiet for failure. They forget that transformation often looks like repetition. But what if you stayed? What if you trusted the process even when you could not see the progress? That is where real discipline lies. In the shadows. In the unseen. In the small, silent victories no one notices: the meal skipped, the alarm obeyed, the anger withheld, the book opened instead of the app. These are not dramatic moments, but they are decisive ones. They are the bricks that build your future character. Quietly. Patiently. Without the need for recognition. Epictetus taught that first, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That order matters. You decide who you want to become first. Then you live as though it is already true. Not someday. No. Before the results. Before the evidence. You act as the person you claim to be, and the results will catch up later. But only if you do not quit in the waiting. And this is where most people falter. They look for signs. They want feedback. Validation. Proof that the effort is working. But in the beginning, there is none. There is only the action. The ritual. The repetition. And if you are brave enough to keep going without applause, you will become something rare, someone who can lead themselves. Imagine that. Imagine no longer needing someone else to push you, to remind you, to hold you accountable. Imagine being the kind of person who simply follows through. Because it is who you are. Because you said you would. That is what the Stoics called freedom, not the ability to do whatever you want, but the strength to do what is right, even when it is hard, even when no one is watching. This level of inner leadership does not come quickly. It is carved over time, through effort that no one claps for. But one day, something shifts. You realize you are no longer asking if you are making progress. You know you are. Not because of results, but because of rhythm. Because you have not stopped. Because you are still here. Seneca reminded us, if one does not know to which port one is sailing, no wind is favorable. So choose your direction. Be clear. Be ruthless with what distracts you. And then commit. Day after day. Even when nothing seems to change. Especially then. Because the most profound changes do not shout. They whisper. And those who listen closely enough, those who stay long enough, get to hear the quiet voice of transformation saying, keep going. Most people chase comfort, thinking it will lead to happiness. They imagine that if they could just have more free time, less pressure, fewer obstacles, they would finally feel peace. But that is not how it works. Comfort without discipline leads to chaos. A soft life makes a soft mind. And the soft mind cannot carry the weight of purpose. What we are truly searching for is not easy to strength. Not escape, but resilience. And discipline is the road to both. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire during war loss and betrayal, and yet he wrote with clarity and calm. Why? Because his peace did not come from circumstances. It came from control of self. He once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is rooted in discipline, a quiet commitment to your own principles, no matter how loud the world becomes. Most of the noise we feel inside comes from our own contradictions. We say we want peace, but we tolerate chaos. We say we want clarity, but we fill our days with distractions. We say we want growth, but we avoid challenge. Discipline is the bridge between intention and integrity. When you live in alignment with your values, the inner conflict begins to dissolve. You stop living two lives, one in words and one in action. They become one. And from that unity comes freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from regret. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from constantly starting over. You do not realize how heavy inconsistency feels until you begin to live consistently. Until you wake up and realize you are no longer negotiating with your excuses. You are simply doing what needs to be done. That kind of freedom cannot be bought. It must be earned. Through repetition. Through silence. Through effort without applause. Epictetus said, "Freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it." What if you applied that to your discipline? What if you stopped chasing the perfect routine, the perfect circumstances, and simply removed the noise that keeps you stuck? No more scrolling first thing in the morning. No more negotiating with your schedule. No more waiting for a sign. Just you, your intention, and the actions that follow. In that simplicity, you will find power. And in that power, you will find peace. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Strong enough to hold the line. Strong enough to stay the course. Strong enough to live by design, not default. If this resonates with you, and you feel that shift happening inside, share this with someone else who needs it. Because truth spreads fastest when it is passed from hand to hand, heart to heart. Discipline without purpose is a prison. It becomes cold, mechanical, joyless. You can follow routines, wake up early, eat clean, work hard, but if you are not connected to something deeper, you will eventually burn out. Because the human spirit is not designed to run on routine alone. It runs on meaning. And meaning is what transforms discipline from a burden into a calling. Ask yourself this: what is all this effort for? Why do you wake up early? Why do you train your body? Why do you sharpen your mind? If the answer is shallow like appearance, praise, or competition, then your discipline will be shallow too. It will crack under pressure. But if your reason is rooted in something immovable, service, truth, legacy, then no hardship can break it. The Stoics believed that everything should serve a greater principle. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." In other words, your discipline must serve more than just you. It must extend to others. To the world you are shaping through your habits. Your routines are not just for your success, they are for your contribution. For your presence. For the people who depend on the version of you that follows through. When your discipline is connected to purpose, everything changes. You stop needing to feel inspired because you are driven by mission. You stop seeking shortcuts because you understand that the process is the point. You stop resenting the hard days because they refine your focus. Each act becomes part of something sacred. You are not just going to the gym. You are preparing your body to carry weight: physical, emotional, spiritual. You are not just writing. You are recording truth that could outlive you. You are not just meditating. You are learning to master the only space you will ever truly live in your mind. Purpose makes discipline sustainable. Without it, discipline is punishment. But with it, discipline is devotion. Devotion to your higher self. Devotion to the future you are building. Devotion to the values you promised you would live by, long after the feelings fade. So what is your purpose? Not the Instagram bio, not the job title, but the reason you get back up when you fall. The reason you keep showing up when it is hard. The reason you choose discipline again and again when giving up would be easier. If you do not have that reason yet, do not worry. It is not always clear in the beginning, but keep acting as though it matters. Keep showing up, and clarity will follow action. That is the Stoic way: live first, understand later. Let this be a reminder: discipline is not just about becoming stronger. It is about becoming useful. And usefulness is how you leave your mark, not through words, but through impact. Quiet, consistent, purposeful impact. Most people see discipline as something harsh, something cold, a system of rules meant to restrain. But that is only true when discipline comes from shame. When it is born from the belief that you are not enough, and you must punish yourself to become worthy. But real discipline, sustainable, liberating discipline, does not come from shame. It comes from love. From the quiet, unshakable belief that you are worth the effort. Discipline is not the voice that says you are failing. It is the voice that says you are capable of more. It is not the harsh inner critic. It is the steady inner guide. The one that holds you to a higher standard, not because you are broken, but because you are whole, and that wholeness deserves protection. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly, and the greatest thing you are creating is not a career, not a body, not a name, it is you." Day by day, habit by habit, thought by thought. True discipline is not rigid, it is compassionate. It understands that you will fall. You will miss days. You will lose your way. But it never stops calling you forward. Not with guilt, but with grace. It whispers, "Come back," and every time you return to your path, your routine, your promise, you become a little more resilient. A little more anchored. A little more whole. This is why the Stoics emphasize forgiveness not as an excuse, but as a return to reason. Marcus Aurelius forgave himself constantly in his journals. He reminded himself to begin again, to refocus, to rise, because he knew that beating himself up served nothing. What mattered was the next step, always the next step. And that is what discipline becomes at its highest form: a rhythm of return. A steady coming back to what matters, no matter how far you drift. You begin to see your own inconsistency, not as failure, but as feedback. A reminder of where the work still lies. And instead of quitting, you soften. You learn. You adjust. Then you continue. That shift from judgment to curiosity is what makes discipline sustainable. Because when you approach yourself with kindness, you stop fearing the journey. You stop needing to be perfect. And in that space, you are free to evolve. Not under pressure, but through presence. So, if you have been trying to force yourself into discipline, maybe it is time to shift the energy. Not weaker, just wiser. Less punishment, more presence. Less shame, more structure. Less pressure, more purpose. Discipline, when rooted in self minus respect, becomes the most loving act you can offer yourself. And when you learn to offer that to yourself, you begin to offer it to others. You become more patient, more present, more reliable, because you are no longer operating from lack, but from alignment. If this message shifted something inside you, hold on to it. Let it settle. Then act from it. There is something powerful about someone who does what they say they will do. No noise. No show. Just quiet, consistent action. Their presence alone changes the room. People may not understand it, but they feel it. The steadiness. The clarity. The discipline. It is magnetic not because it demands attention, but because it reflects something rare: self respect. When you become disciplined, truly disciplined, you do not need to preach. You do not need to convince anyone to live differently. Your actions speak louder than any words. Your habits become your message. Your life becomes your proof. That is what makes discipline contagious, not its intensity, but its integrity. People see you saying no to what does not serve you. They see you protecting your time, following through on your word, living with intention. And something inside them wakes up. Marcus Aurelius never set out to become a philosopher or others. He wrote to himself in private to stay on course. And yet, centuries later, those words continue to guide millions. Why? Because they were real. Because they came from lived discipline. He did not seek influence, but his example became immortal. You may never write a book. You may never speak on a stage. But the way you carry yourself, the way you move through the world with purpose and consistency, is already teaching others how to live. Your discipline gives them permission to raise their own standards. Your integrity shows them it is possible. That is leadership, not a title, but a temperature. You set the tone simply by showing up aligned. And this is where the deeper reward of discipline lies. Not in what you get, but in who you become and how that becomes a gift to others. You become the friend people trust, the partner people rely on, the presence that brings calm to chaos. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are anchored. Steady. Focused. Alive. Do not underestimate this impact. In a world drowning in distraction, your discipline is rebellion. In a culture addicted to speed, your consistency is strength. In a time where most people start but rarely finish, your follow Minus through his inspiration. You are not just building a better life. You are building an example. And examples are how the world changes. So if you ever wonder whether it is worth it to keep going, even when no one notices, remember this: someone is always watching. Not to judge you, but to see if it is possible. To see if there is another way to live. And when they do, you may just be the mirror that reflects their highest self. You do not need to lead with volume. Lead with presence. Lead with alignment. And let your discipline speak in a language louder than words. At the beginning, discipline feels like restriction. Like something being taken away. Freedom. Spontaneity. Ease. But stay long enough on the path, and the truth reveals itself. Discipline does not take away your freedom, it gives it back. It peels away distraction. It silences noise. It clears the fog of indecision. And in that space, you meet someone you may have forgotten: your real self. Not the version shaped by cravings, by mood swings, by social pressure, but the grounded, focused, capable version. The one who keeps promises. The one who does not run when things get hard. The one who knows what matters and lives like it. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is not far away. It is already inside you, waiting for you to stop listening to the voice that says, maybe tomorrow. This journey through the 4 levels of discipline is not linear. You will rise. You will fall. Some days you will be on fire. Others, you will feel numb. But what matters is that you do not stop. That you remember what this is really about. It is not about streaks or checklists. It is about who you are becoming. Every decision is a vote for that future self. Every repetition is a brick in the foundation. You are building something no one else can see yet, but you can feel it. The Stoics believed that virtual excellence of character was the highest good. Not comfort. Not praise. Not ease. But living in alignment with what is true and right, regardless of how you feel. That is what discipline really is. It is not about achievement, it is about becoming. Becoming someone you are proud of. Someone you can trust. Someone whose life is not ruled by impulse, but by intention. So let this be your quiet commitment, not to perfection, but to persistence. Not to feeling good, but to doing good. Not to what is easy, but to what is essential. Let your discipline be your compass when emotions fade. Let it be your shelter when storms come. Let it be your offering to the world, daily declaration that you will not drift, you will not betray your highest self. You have everything you need. Not later. No. So go. Walk the path. Even if your steps are small. Even if no one sees. Even if your hands shake. Keep going. Because in a world full of noise, the quiet strength of your discipline may be the most powerful thing you ever give. If this journey spoke to something deep in you, share. Not for numbers, but for impact. One person. One message. One shift. Because the world does not need more noise. It needs more examples.